On Monday, the 17th of November, we're with Talib Ahmed Bensouda. He's the mayor of Kanifing municipality, and well, he's also a presidential aspirant. We'll get into his political ambitions later on. Still on KMC, how did you handle internal resistance or sabotage from within the council or political circles?
When we first took office, yes. So of course,
from then to date, you can't say you have weeded the council of all political saboteurs.
Well, I don't think you could ever 100% achieve that. Only people know what's in their hearts and what they intend. What we can judge from is performance. What we can judge from is delivery of, one's TOR. And I believe for the most part, we have achieved a turnaround in terms of how people perceived us before we came into office and how they perceive us now. Because one thing we did was to ensure everybody was comfortable with the fact that we are not here to target anybody. We are not here to investigate who supports who or what party you belong to. In fact, one of the well-known stories was between me and the anti-littering manager. We used to refer to each other as Mr. APRC and Mr. UDP, and we'd laugh about it. So we've created a conducive environment where everybody feels like their basic right to support who they like is not hindered as far as they're delivering on their projects. Of course, we've had cases where there's suspicion of people not delivering for political motives, but I mean, who could really prove that? You could only say whether somebody performs or not, but why they don't perform, you couldn't confirm that. I mean, that is very difficult unless they're expressly heard saying it. So we don't bother too much about it. We just focus on KPIs and evaluating and ensuring people are productive.
You made reference earlier on to the inquiry commission, and you made it explicitly known that it was politically motivated. Why do you think they came after you, and how did you absolve yourself of all the accusations that might have emanated from your interactions with them, members of the council?
Right, so the initiation...
Commission rather, not council, commission.
So you have to go back to why it was initiated in the first place. I mean, people forget because it's been a long time. But in 2021, when the government was trying to impose the CEO that we were trying to get rid of, and it became a big tussle, the PIU were involved, courts were involved, and of course, it was the story at the time. And after several months of attempts, the courts gave us an injunction against them, and they stopped. Then the minister reversed tack, and he started a ministerial commission of inquiry. That was Musa Drame against KMC. Our staff had even started going to answer to investigators, etc. But we had, a backstop. We started a high court case to basically dissolve the commission, to squash the commission of inquiry. And then the court ruled at the time that the commission had no powers to investigate people. People were not obliged to answer to the commission. Basically, squashing it indirectly. So the minister then ended the commission, and then they started working on a presidential commission of inquiry. But they said they would wait till closer to the election to see the trend, because they were expecting...
They said that?
This is information we have from the insiders.
And you believe the information?
Well, as trusted people. So basically they said they would wait because there was an interim management committee that would be in place 3 months before the election, and that could be a de facto commission, meaning they could do investigations and then reveal things, etc. But little did they know we also had another strategy, which was to actually declare that interim management committees were illegal and unconstitutional. And that is the Supreme Court case I refer to, Talib Bensouda and 53 others versus Gambia government. And just in the nick of time, the month before the interim was supposed to be set up, the Supreme Court ruled that it is an unconstitutional setup. And basically, they couldn't do that. That is when they moved to the Presidential Commission of Inquiry. And this time they said, look, let's just do it across all councils so that it doesn't seem like we are targeting one individual. But people know this story.
What's the story?
Well, it's to target me.
Okay. All right. And do you think that had to do with your timing? Because just when people thought the commission was about to wrap up, then you had to come and give testimony.
No.
And then I think there was a time frame of what, 1 or 2 weeks, but then it was extended.
Well, the commission...
Was that because of your perceived lack of cooperation? Because that's the perception at the beginning, that you were not cooperative.
Well, no. So the story I'm saying is before actually the commission was established. I mean the
okay,
events,
I understand
events
that.
leading to when it was.
So let me reframe the question. What do you think of the timing of your invitation to the commission to have waited until the last week or weeks?
Well, to be fair, I was supposed to answer to the commission by I think December 11th, but I was on leave. So that's why it was brought by December 30th. Sorry, December 23rd or so. But, you know, I don't know the motivations behind why I was the last one and why I went for 10 days. That doesn't matter. For me, the commission was already set up. I was obliged to go and answer. I should. And I am by no means not against accountability and transparency. And I'm glad I did. But I'm just saying the politicians' motivations. So I'm not saying anything bad about the commissioners or the lead counsel. But I'm talking about the politicians whose motivations were to bring about tools to sort of destroy my career.
And who are these politicians?
Well, it's the Musa Drame, Adama Barrows, the people in power, the government. Yeah.
And what lessons did you take away from the scrutiny, and how do you think they will shape your political future and leadership style?
I think it's built my political career.
Has it?
Yeah, because one person told me, look, this commission of inquiry will either destroy your political career or it will make you, and we will know by the end of your sittings. So I went for 10 days under intense scrutiny, but nobody could pinpoint as to what I did or what I took. And there were so many rumors and allegations over elections and over political cycles where they created such big propaganda, such big falsehoods. And then people were waiting for the big story. You know, the millions of euros Talib took, or the millions of dollars he took from the Mbalit project, or the sort of business interest he has in KMC. And after 10 days of scrutiny, there was nothing. You know, so I walked out unscathed, and I walked out, I believe, having public confidence in me that, you know, I have handled my time in KMC judiciously. I have done my best to deliver for the people, and I have done my best to hold those around me accountable within my power, of course.
And of all these falsehoods, which one would you say was the biggest of them all?
Well, the biggest of them all was, I think, the Mbalit project. I mean, you know, even the EU funds issue came up during the commission when they saw that there was nothing and they tried to create things. But for years, since 2019, since we started the Mbalit project, there was this talk of inflated cost and, you know, kickbacks and etc. And they couldn't prove and they couldn't find anything. You know, in fact, at the end, the commissioners were even praising our efforts to bring about comprehensive waste management. So by far, I think that was the biggest. Yeah.
You spoke about transparency a lot. How do you define transparency in local government, and would you say KMC actually lived up to its own standards of transparency?
So I think transparency is, for the most part, you know, opening your doors, having an open door policy for media, publishing of activities, including budgets, publishing of, you know, projects you implement, project documents, etc. I mean, it's a public office. There's nothing that is secret. But I think the bigger responsibility for transparency is with the arms of government responsible for holding, you know, different institutions accountable, including the National Audit Office, GPPA, the local government, you know, the Finance Public Accounts Committee at the Parliament level, etc. I think these are the auditing and accounting institutions that should ensure, public institutions such as KMC are held accountable. But in our role as policymakers and leaders, we have just developed a culture of transparency. We were the first institution out of the local government arena to be publicly publishing our budgets, to be publicly inviting media to come sit and cover our local government council sittings. So I think we've done our part. It's just about being inclusive and having an open door policy. We were even accused at some point of over-publishing. The president termed it as propaganda of KMC. Oh. Yes. So I think people didn't like that. People who view us as competitors, because they are not doing the same. And we've done extraordinary things, especially in my personal capacity, to really show that government assets are government assets. One culture I started in KMC, I never allowed the council car to sleep at my house, to spend the night at my house. I am picked up every morning and dropped off, and the car goes back to the council. I had reduced...
If you had private runs, how did you manage?
I have a private car. Okay. So I also ensured that the fuel for the mayor was halved. It was 11,250 every week. I dropped it to 5,000, with the understanding that if I reduce it, everybody has to fall below me. And that happened. So this saved the council millions of dollars every year. And even now, there was a plan to buy a mayor's car next year, because my car is 7 years old. And there was an argument that the deputy mayor didn't have a car and certain officers didn't have a car. Guess what I did?
What did you do?
I took the mayor's car and gave it to the deputy mayor, and I'm using my personal car, and I cancelled the mayor's car from the 2026 budget.
You didn't do what our National Assembly members did. Every 5 years they are entitled
to
ask for a new car.
Absolutely not. So I don't have a mayor's car right now. It is given to the deputy mayor. I have cancelled the purchase of a mayor's car for 2026, and I will continue with my private car for the last year I spent in office. And it's all in the spirit of spending taxpayers' money where it's needed the most. There's so many things that need to be done. Markets need to be built. Waste management needs to be improved. Why would I buy a $5, $6, $7 million car for my personal use? It absolutely makes...
Highly commendable. Yeah. But you have what? Another year or so in office, and then you move on. Somebody else comes in who might choose to undo all these, changes that you brought, positive changes from how you explain them. So what reforms would you recommend to prevent further administrative lapses once you've moved on? And not just, in KMC, but across local governance in the Gambia?
Well, I think decisions about purchases will always rest with the council. The council, as per law, develops its budget, prioritizes what they feel that needs to be done. I think with increased decentralization, meaning give more power to the councils, you will actually have the public hold them more accountable. There won't be any excuses.
Yeah, but the government seems unwilling to do that.
Right.
I mean, you've been fighting for, decentralization, more devolution of power to the local government, institutions, but that's not happening.
Well, that's not happening.
And it looks like, it's going to be another five years of this administration, unless maybe you think
no, it won't be.
I don't have my head fit straight between my shoulders.
It will be another 5 years of the Unite government.
Okay.
But basically, I think with all seriousness, I think Gambia needs to review its laws. We need to look at legislative processes. We need to ensure that institutions are given responsibility and held accountable. I think the spirit of the law already communicates this. It's just about bringing about, innovation, making sure we are catching up to the times, and, performance-driven institutions and accountability. I think that's the most important thing. We have the National Audit Office, allow it to be independent, allow it to function. You have the police, allow them to be independent, allow them to function. You have the National Assembly who does their work. And just like you started this conversation, if the president is the one appointing the head of the National Audit Office or appointing IG of police, that person might feel beholden to the executive. So I think those are some of the things that are wrong. It starts with these little things. But if the president, for example, nominates the National Audit Office Director and the Central Bank Governor and the IG and is ratified by Parliament or voted, then they don't feel that, okay, I owe everything to the President. He may have nominated me, but I won my position through a vote. I was scrutinized, I was interviewed by lawmakers, and I must serve out my term to the letter and be loyal to the Constitution and the country. So, but I believe if the President can remove you and appoint you, then you wouldn't be judicious with your role to hold government accountable.
Okay, and if we brought that down to local government level, you obviously wanted the powers to be able to appoint and fire the CEO. Now, how do those dynamics play differently now at, local government level?
So it's different. The National Audit Office and these agencies I speak of are about accountability and justice. It's not about implementation and delivery. So the equivalent of what I'm saying is a president appointing his ministers. Okay. That's different. So the CEO and the mayor's relationship is not about accountability. It's about delivery and implementation. If a president is elected into office and is expected to deliver for the people, he must have the ability to hire ministers, hire directors, because these are the people implementing on behalf of the executive. Now, the equivalent between the president or the executive and the National Audit Office is the same relationship with KMC and the National Audit Office, or the same as KMC and the police. So it's different dynamics.
Okay, all right. As you transition from mayor to presidential aspirant, what legacy do you hope to leave behind in KMC?
I think
Kanifing, municipality in general.
I mean, it's better for others to judge. But in my perspective, and given feedback, and given that I've been re-elected, I think I've left big shoes that will be difficult.
Yes, the image of you that you want to leave behind. This has to come from Talib. Yes, we have our perception of you. I could say you are this, you are that, but you're doing this work with a view to achieving something and leaving a lasting impression in the minds of people.
I think my biggest legacy would be I've brought about the concept of a servant leader. I think for the longest, people looked at mayors and arguably even ministers and presidents as people to worship or people to, always revere. But I think I've brought the down-to-earth politics, which is why we are elected into office, the concept of the servant leader. So I've done all I could to change the culture of, people praising you all the time and going down to the bottom and delivering. So I think for the first time, area councils are seen, because of KMC's leadership, as entities that should actually bring services to the doorsteps of the people. And I believe it's created even competition with both the central government and other area councils, where they are also trying to deliver, and that is healthy for the country.
And why do you think it was easy for you to achieve this? Is this down to your upbringing, or is it that you came into office and saw that, this shouldn't have been, but had been for decades, and it was just part of your ethos not to allow it to happen any further?
So I think it's about motivations of why somebody seeks public office in the first place. Because public office, as is designed, and if you follow the rules, shouldn't really be a place where one builds themselves, shouldn't be a place where one enriches themselves, and should not be a position one would enjoy and relax in. It is very difficult if you are trying to deliver. It is a lot of scrutiny. It is quite stressful if you're trying to deliver. And if you're somebody who cares about reputation and legacy, you might not sleep at night because you're always worried about your image being tainted. But
speaking of sleeping at night, I remember your predecessor. Once I interviewed him on the Bakote dump site, and I asked, how do you sleep at night? And he said, how do you know I sleep at night? I don't sleep at night, especially when you have these, frequent. You are very right. I mean, prior to your coming into office, fire outbreaks were frequent at the Bakote dump site.
For months.
Yeah.
You know, they would. So it's
so
about.
he said that Bakote was the one thing that gave him sleepless nights.
Yes, it's one of the most sensitive spots in the municipality or in the country. You have to keep one eye open all the time. If one mistake happens there, it can be a public disaster. So basically, back to the answer is
Legacy.
one must have the right motivations for wanting to come into public office to be able to deliver in public office. And if it's about, if your motivations are personal upliftment, then you would not do justice to the position.
Would you say that is the greatest misconception as to why people go into public office? That they've gone there to build themselves up financially and financially only?
Well, it's evident. I mean, you know, so for example, if you did not have an SUV, and
which I don't have, by the way,
then you might consider a public office.
Oh,
because
really?
there's luxury SUVs for everybody. You know, so for example, so this might be an opportunity for some to say, okay, now I can be, you know, have this big SUV, blah blah blah, and that's the wrong motivation. So for example, when I was bought an SUV, similar to what the ministers drive now, in 2019, and the car came. At the time, it was $5 million. It was a Nissan Patrol, brand new, very massive vehicle. I saw it. I went home with it one night. I couldn't sleep. You know, there was because I just reflected on.
You just have this fantastic beast now that you can, you know,
the
that
many
you can tell to drive you to England, and it will.
You know, so I thought about the many things we said on the campaign trail. We are going to build markets. We are going to bring waste management vehicles. And then this is the first thing you do. You know, so the next day I called this year. I said, please return this. He said, what do you mean? I said, just get a basic car. He said, but it's okay. You know, they always try to talk you into it. That is normal, or this is the norms, this is the custom. I said, well, for me, it's not normal. You know, so I had them return it, and they brought a $2.4 million car, which people mocked me was like an MRC doctor's vehicle, you know, those white. Yes. And that's what I used for 7 years, and I just handed it to the deputy mayor, but it didn't park a day in my house. And whenever I go for political events or personal trips, I use my private car. So like I said, that would not be possible if, you know, your motivation was to amass. And, you know, one thing I always say in Gambia is so tiny that we could even do away with petrol vehicles. Why not electric cars? You know, why not a good public service that reaches every public servant? Why not build the salaries of public servants and bring about good finance plans with banks so they can buy their own personal cars and they can use that? Why put all the burden on government? So I think there should be a strategy around that. By all means, a lot of public servant salaries cannot afford mobility for them and their families, and which is not a good thing, because you want your public servants motivated. But then you should come up with schemes, you know, increasing salaries or good guarantees with financial institutions to allow them to have car leases, and that brings pride and dignity to their houses. You know.
I'm going to finish this bit of our conversation on KMC, ironically, with unfinished businesses.
Right.
What unfinished business at KMC still weighs on Talib Ahmed Bensouda?
Well, I wouldn't say weighs on me, but of course, I wish I was able to do it. But for many reasons I stated before, we could not. But definitely, one would be affordable housing. It's a huge problem for Gambians.
Why weren't you able to even start on this?
Well, we could not even get papers for land we own, like such as the building we sit in. You know, we've applied and we've had promises.
So there's nothing to prove that building, though built by KMC,
is owned
by the municipality.
Same as all our parks, all our markets, all our community centers. You know, so these are one of the things government refuses to do. And without that, how could you ever get land anywhere to claim that you own it, to be able to do affordable housing? So that's sad for me, because I receive so many inquiries about people not being able to afford rent. Every day you go to the Kanifing Magistrates Court, the rent tribunal is full of disputes. Landlords are just increasing rent every day, and their claim is, of course, that cost of living in Gambia is very expensive, and they must,
which it is,
they must catch up with this increased cost. So many Gambians are left vulnerable, and the most vulnerable group is single mothers. There's an increasing and growing population of single mothers whose husbands have gone back away or have passed away, or who've simply just abandoned them with several kids, and they can't find work, and they live in poor conditions, and with landlords that also cannot have pity for so long. So affordable housing would have been a great safety net for people such as that, and they're growing every day because Gambia is not getting any cheaper. There's no policies on affordability. Inflation is high. The dollar is devaluating.
Inflation is down to 7.6.
So they say.
From double digits.
So they say, but not
well,
the
data shows
not
that.
the guy buying pig milk at the shop every week or trying to buy bread and butter, you know.
Well, they say they don't control prices.
Well, you know, so I don't go with statistics that are coming from the central government. The best statistics is from the layman or the guy going to the shop. Those are the guys feeling the inflation. And every day they tell you, man, I can't believe this was $75 yesterday. Now it's $120. You know, so I think we should be very serious about inflation. And one of them is just sound economic policy and just also legislation that protects local industry and horticulture, you know. So I think
affordable housing.
Affordable housing has been.
What about roads? You promised us at least 10
you know,
new roads.
Last time we were here, we told you about the battle of roads. It's been, you know, excruciatingly difficult. Just I think after almost 2 years of launching, we finally got a letter from Ministry of Works, copied to NRA, that can you supervise KMC's project. Now we are following that letter with NRA. They're saying we're busy with other roads. So it's just an endless game, you know, to prevent these road projects from happening. And then you come to the...
Where's the money meanwhile? The money is sitting somewhere waiting.
Well, we've paid 33 million to the contractor already as advance payments, you know. So it's quite frustrating, you know, it's quite annoying. And this is something that would benefit people in the municipality. I mean, look at our road conditions. Government boasts about building roads, but still 95% of roads are unbuilt. Just try to visit friends and family. It's horrifying, especially in the rainy season. So you come to the municipal transport. That has been a huge challenge because of our inability to generate our own loans. That has been very difficult to bring about. But we haven't given up on that. I wouldn't say it's over until it's over. We have 1 more year to make it happen, and we're doing everything we can because it is a necessity. I mean, look at today when you go to Faraba. You know, look at the students who come out of the university in the wilderness, and they're just waiting for private cars. I mean, look at the buses that GTSC gives them every morning in the strategic locations they stand, and just look at the lines and sometimes the fights to get in those buses. Public transportation is a real pressing issue in this country. And
Talib had intended to deliver for KM residents.
You know what impresses me the most when you go to developed world?
No.
When you go to the subway and there's senators and there's billionaires using public transportation.
Absolutely.
It's even better.
It's an equalizer.
Public transport is an equalizer,
yes. And just finally, Talib, if your successor asked for one piece of advice, what would it be?
One piece of advice I would give to the successor is...
Would you want the successor to be a man or a woman? We once discussed this.
I would love a woman mayor for KMC. I think that would be great.
Okay, so what piece of advice for them?
But my advice would be to not assume, not take anything for granted, and be very inquisitive. You know, do not assume, do not listen to what others say. Be inquisitive, find out for yourself. I think that is very, very important for a complex institution like KMC. I believe it is the hardest public institution to run in the Gambia. It is 1,400 staff. It is the most densely populated region in this country. It is a big population. Most of the ministers, the lawyers, the the journalists live here, so the opinions.
I called us earlier the great people of Kanifing.
Well, yeah. So no matter how much you deliver, you'll always be scrutinized. They will always want more. So it is the New York City of Gambia. So you have to be on top of your toes, and you cannot be lazy. You cannot.
Fantastic. Yeah. Talib Ahmed Bensouda, Mayor of KMC, is our guest this morning. He's also the leader of UMC. We're coming to that next.